Hey everybody, Dan the Healing Man, and I'm so glad you guys tuned into this one. Today we're going to talk about something that is sort of a Danism, but I think it fits right into the Jesus strategy and the ideas in the 12 steps of recovery. And that is, we got to watch out for our foes, our enemies, right? We think they are the things that disrupt our life, but it's not FOE like you think of foe, but FOH. And it's an acronym. It means your fears, opinions, and habits, because it's really our fears, opinions, and habits that create so much havoc in our life. As I walk through the woods today, we're out here in the beautiful Wildcat Creek wilderness, and I'm walking Big Bear, and he's out there somewhere trying to, there he is. And lots of things are going through my mind. Stuff about work, stuff about life, stuff about my kids, all kinds of things are floating through the mind. And I can frame them up a couple of different ways. In one way, I can think of them as, well, what am I not getting, right? What isn't going my way? Another way I can think of them is with indifference, like, who cares? And that's a really dangerous spot for us. Things like acceptance, powerlessness, and surrender often are categorized in that way, and they don't really mean anything like that. Or I can think about them as, how do I step into these things and be of maximum service to God and my fellow man? And the only thing keeping me from that are my fears, opinions, and habits. So when I think of my fears, it's important to think of them in the way they come about, because seldom does it come about as I'm afraid. In recovery circles, they like to say I'm afraid of losing what I have or not getting what I want. And that usually comes out as anger, frustration, worry, anxiety, despair, and indifference. Right, and then my opinion, the lowest, the most meager form of intelligence on planet Earth is any individual's opinion, because it's just one guy, one person's opinion. It doesn't really matter other than them. My opinion's important to me, but that's why it's, well, mine, right? And it doesn't necessarily need to be shared out there. But my opinions frame the world up however they do. And as I work to use the Jesus strategy through prayer, meditation, through ideas like I'm loved by a God, that I'm caused somehow, all this kind of stuff, I don't have to worry so much about or have the fears about my opinions. My opinions drive the fears. And then my habits. How is this interrupting what I want to do, right? I got habits and all kinds of things. I like to think of myself sort of random and maybe not so habitual. That's not true. That's not true. I am full of habits, from the way I eat, the times I eat, to where I go, to how I get there, right? You got a favorite way to get places too. And our habits really can lock us off from the opportunities that life brings us. So our foes, what comes up against us? It's our fears, our opinions, and our habits. And we just got to take that away. So here's what we do. When it pops into my mind, when it wants to come pouring out of my dang spout, out of my face, right? That I like or don't like something, that I think something is right or wrong, that I think something is good or bad, or I think something is true or false, shut that down for a second. You can hang on to those things, that's fine. It's nothing wrong with thinking those things. It's when they come out, and find interest in whatever it is that has you thinking that way. Right, wrong, true and false, good and bad, like and don't like, are pitfalls. They're really just opinions that are driven by a little tiny fragment of the information that's available in the world. And the less I have of weight in that opinion, the more opportunity I have for an open mind. The sunlight of the Spirit, it can only come into the open mind. It doesn't come into the decided mind, that religious certainty. I'm absolutely certain. It just leaves no room for it. And when you're thinking about something that's the universal creator, it's got to find its way in. And some of the things, and my foes, my enemies, the things that lock me off from that are my fears, opinions, and habits. Sometimes they come out as this thing called expectations, and expectations have a lot of forms. They're like entitlements. They're just the way things ought to be. And, out in the woods, there's all kinds of bugs. And there's all sorts of things out there that expectations lead to. One caveat on the expectation thing is this. It's not that I don't have any expectations. Of course I do. Of course I do. There's a spiritual expectation called faith, right? So of course I have expectations. It's whether they're reasonable or not. The 12th step of the 12-step program talks about that. I put unreasonable demands on the world. And then that triggers my foes, my enemies, my fears, opinions, and habits come flying in, and they lock me off from doing God's work. So The idea here today is just to concentrate on those enemies, those foes, your fears, opinions, and habits, and how they help you make decisions, and how they hurt your framework of thought that helps you see this world, not in the way God sees it or God would want you to see it, but in the way you see it. And you put greater importance on you as opposed to your Creator. The Jesus strategy. So how do I do all this, Dan? Well, it's real easy. It's real easy. You reach out and you act helpful to people, particularly the ones you don't like. And if they offend you, the word is to turn the other cheek. And after that, you're going to walk the extra mile. And if they steal something from you, you're going to find out why. And maybe even give them more. It's easy to love our brother and sister. It's easy to love the like-minded. It's easy to be a part of a club or a group or a congregation or whatever it is. That's easy. It's those people that aren't a part of it that we're really after. Those are the ones that deserve the treatment without all the religious proclamation, with all that, self-righteousness, grandiose petitions that we may bring to God. It's just a performance of what God would have you do. So if you want to confront your fears, opinions, and habits, they're not going away. And you want them to have less an effect in your life. You want to diminish their impact on your everyday living. Think about this for a second. Pray for wisdom. Pray for serenity for that enemy. Pray for peace for the situation that seems very unpeaceful. Pray that people and places and things get the things that you want for yourself. If you're interested in where you can get that kind of information, page 552 in that AA Big Book is great. And Matthew chapter 5 in that bigger book. It's also pretty awesome too. So remember, watch out for your foes. They're your enemies. Be interested in what other people have to offer and how God's presenting the world to you more so than how you think the world ought to be. I hope you have a great day.